Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Libra New Moon that's happening on October 16th, 2020. I'm Adrienne Elise. So this new moon is a turning point. Even though we've got Mercury and Mars both retrograde and the feeling of going nowhere, but we can also feel that so much is happening. And the deal is that this new moons are always a start of a new cycle of the lunar month. But in this case, we've got a cardinal T-square happening with the sun and the moon in Libra. And so cardinal signs are about starting something new. And it's really, this T-square is like a wheel. It's like turning, trying to turn the wheel, trying to get us out of the dark ages and into the light. So the sun and the moon, this new moon happens at 23 degrees, 53 minutes Libra. So pretty much 24 degrees Libra. And that puts it opposite of Mars and in square to Pluto, Jupiter, Pluto, and not too far from Saturn. So it's like all of the big players of 2020 are engaged in this cardinal T-square with Mars retrograde at the helm, trying to figure out a new way forward, a new way to fight. Mars in his home sign of Aries, speaking about us claiming back our life force, our connection to the I Am presence, to the reality, the living reality that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So this Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn all together in Capricorn are about breaking down the false matrix, breaking down the false reality. And a big energy for this time right now for the supernova soul is about holding your reality. It's so interesting that physics, quantum physics and physics, just science has shown us like so much truth around like that matter isn't actually matter, time doesn't really exist, and this, we are coming face to face with this. It's almost like this turning point that we're at is about rewriting the history books, rewriting the science books, overhaul the education system, medical system, financial system, right? Like everything's on the table because what we've based our reality on is false. So the supernova soul is being asked to hold a different reality, and more spiritual reality, and be present. So this, I hope you'll consider joining me for the new moon activation. That's going to be just an hour and a half before the actual new moon on Friday the 16th at noon Mountain Time in the US. So this energy is so interesting because it's like, here we go. We're in this huge turning of a corner. Like this is a turning point. This astrology is saying, yep, here we go. And yet we've got Mars and Mercury retrograde feeling like you're not going anywhere, And so for us, this is saying, hey, it's time to come into outside of time and into the now moment, into the continuous one time. This is so powerful, the role of Saturn in these transits that have been happening throughout 2020, because Saturn rules time. At home in Capricorn, it's about the structures of our reality, the way we've kind of done things. And that, coming back to that science and all that of what's been proven to us, but we're not living that truth, We have been shown that our reality that we see in our mind, it's like, the quantum physics has shown us that it's only there when we think we see it, right? And so we're all projecting our own reality, right? And then we have a collectively agreed upon reality. Now, the collectively agreed upon reality of the masses, of the sheeple, not good for you right now, right? Like it's a time to just cut off from all of the lower stories and garbage, because it's all about pulling you down into that matrix energy of this world's going to hell and there's nothing you can do about it and you failed on your mission on earth. And none of that's true. We're just getting started. And so it's really important to hold your own reality and draw on the strength that you have as a spirit, soul, and all you've gone through, because the time is now to claim this different reality, different, more true reality. And that seems to be about what these big player planets are all about, breaking down the false reality, breaking down the lower matrix, breaking down the narcissist feeding program, and moving into a whole different way of being that really, one way to describe it of what we're moving into is like free energy. We know free energy technology exists. There's actually technologies beyond what we can imagine that exist but have been withheld from us, and this is part of the positive octave of the Aquarian age, is these technologies that can better human life and health and our environment, and these technologies being given back to us, coming out so that we can finally evolve out of this nightmare, right? Because the technologies, as long as we're not told about these technologies, they can be used against us. And there's like quantum technologies, alien technologies in our phone, and so as long as we don't know about these technologies and don't understand them, then they can be used to control us, to track us, to trace us, to get into our mind and all that stuff, right? But when we turn the corner on disclosure of the higher technologies that are available, we have solutions to everything on this planet, And it's just like this paradigm, so much has been, because if we had those technologies, if we knew about our true history, if we understood, if we were really living according to the science that has been proven in quantum physics, the whole lower matrix feeding system, it can't exist, And so we're just at this point, so it's really, that might be helpful in just like when you hold your reality that's higher and more true, that Gaia, the potential of what we're really doing here, that 5D Earth, and kind of feel into the energy of these creative technological solutions that are just right there waiting for us, And what a different world. And can you be in that vibration? Can you be in that reality? You have those codes within you, in your DNA. And it's time to identify and live and breathe with that potential and hope and love and spiritual truth. And every time you feel yourself, like the news and the politics and all the mail and the phone calls, and it's like, oh God, leading up to the elections in the US, it's like, just be like, yeah, that's the old that's dying, and I'm gonna put my attention here. And now that is in alignment with part of what's breaking down, which is really, really weird, because our 5D, like the next level of consciousness we're moving into, a completely different relationship with time. Actually time doesn't even really exist. And it's so strange to go from this linear past, future accumulation of events and experiences into this concentric circle, kind of the way the Mayans see time. It's like concentric circles, so that everything that's ever happened happens also in the other cycles. Like, so everything that's ever happened throughout time in this evolution also happens in every year, month, week, day, moment. So when we talk about coming into the now moment, which is a big energy for this Libra new moon, because we have Mars and Mercury retrograde, but a cardinal T-square and like this new world right around the corner, you know. But the present moment doesn't quite describe what is happening to us. It's like, what if there is no time at all? And within our psyche, you know, we are concurrently experiencing all these other realities. And that's what's so frustrating for the supernova souls. Like, you have a sense that you have this bigger, wider ability, this bigger spiritual presence, this bigger spiritual awareness, and yet you're kind of chained in 3D, and that's all you get to access, you know? And it's like, how do I get out of here? You know? And that's partly why your life and your lifetimes have been so intense, is because your goal, I see it again in chart after chart of the supernova soul. It's like, you want out, right? You want to complete your earth karma, where maybe you'd come back into a body out of like, just to be here and bring your light, but not out of karma, out of karmic responsibility to other souls, you know. So we're on this verge of like being able to completely, part of the squeeze of this time is pushing us into that place of understanding there is no time, and that it's not one now moment, because now talks about there's something before and something after. It's one continuous moment. It's very strange. But so we are, you know, embrace, you know, we're being asked to claim this one continuous moment, you know, for this Libra new moon. That's what these energies are talking about. Now, it's interesting because that's because Mercury and Mars, our two main action planets, are retrograde together. It's like, whoa, you know, Mercury just turned retrograde on the 13th. And we've got 3 weeks leading up exactly to the US elections. You cannot make this stuff up, of this weird portal, birth canal, right? Because we've got Venus in Virgo, and trying to birth us into this new reality, trying to cleanse and heal and release all the stuff, you know, that's keeping us in that time construct. Because the traumas that we experienced have a role, you know, the role that they're playing for us is keeping us into the time construct, right? Because if you have something from the past that's unresolved, how can you ever get to that one continuous moment? Because that past is always going to come and haunt you. So it's interesting because, so all of this is up for review. And as you heal your traumas, you know, to really release all of our karma, which is what, like I said, in the astrology chart, I see these souls, you know, with this goal for this lifetime. And not just that, like, that's not enough. Like, you can't get out of the earth trap by just releasing your karma. You can only get out of the earth trap, your karmic earth trap of requirement to come back and clean up your messes, by total forgiveness to all the energies, forces, people who have injured you, you know, in those traumas. And it's like, oh, gosh, you know, a lot is being asked of us right now, but what's on the other side is that energy of spiritual ascension, of being free, of choosing whether or not you want to come and be in a body. You can be in your light body, you can be in your physical body. This is what's really going on. And the energy of that is so amazing. So let's just keep your energy there, on this cardinal T-square energy, that we're turning the wheel of time outside of time. We're releasing, having an opportunity to just, you know, that moment where you kind of see clearly, you see like your role and their role, and yes, these bad things happen, but it's gotten you here, and you're just ready to love. Just, you know, it's like we want to have our boundaries. We want to stop feeding the narcissist, but we also need to come to a place of higher love. And Libra has this energy, you know, of this harmonized, like, peace and harmony and balance of, you know, coming into the heart chakra, into a more evolved heart chakra. This is kind of a big part of our evolution. It's like we don't even really have access to our true heart chakra, our cosmic heart chakra, and that's awakening for us. So that's part of the really sweet, harmonious energies that have been going on this month with Jupiter sextile Neptune. That's over now exact, but we still are going to feel it through this next month or two. And we've also got Venus in Virgo and trining all these big players, right? So we got the square and the tension, and we got to move, we got to shift, we got to change. And it's such a big change. You know, it's frustrating, right? Because Mars wants to go, wants to make stuff happen, wants to move. And Mars is impatient in Aries. You know, so Mars retrograde and this waiting around for our world to change, right? And then that's a big message for the supernova soul too. It's like, you are that shift. You are that change when you give yourself permission. Like if you're waiting for a shift, it's like the message now is like, there's nothing else to wait for. It's right there beyond the veil. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's about us claiming that higher frequency vibration little by little, more and more into our life and living and breathing that truth. And the energy for that, of this Libra new moon, you know, it's got that portal type energy of just like that slipping through. And part of slipping through is this forgiveness energy and releasing of the karma. That's a big part of the Saturn energy too. Now it's interesting to know that even though we have Mars and Mercury, our two main action planets, retrograde, and we're just going, you know, just treading water, feeling so ready for something new and different, and yet, not yet, not for you, you know, it's like, and maybe that's part of this pressure, you know, like pushing that seed to sprout. And but Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are all direct now. And so it's interesting because, yeah, we got Mercury and Mars, those are our everyday planets retrograde. And those are the ones we feel most as far as like retrograde energies. But the backdrop, they're ready to go, right? The big shifts. It's like, yeah, come on, you guys, let's do this, right? So there's this weird tension, you know, that we've been feeling for years, culminating in 2020, tension between the old and the new. And here we are at this turning point. And this cardinal T-square with the sun and the moon opposite Mars in square to those Capricorn planets is speaking to this turning the wheel. Like, we've been devolving and in this time warp energy where our consciousness has evolved, but our world hasn't evolved. That's really what these Capricorn planets are about. This whole energy in Capricorn, it's like we are having all these energetic shifts. There's this whole other energetic world out there if you can allow it for yourself, right? But we're still living in these old constructs of the old paradigm. Like, we still haven't seen the changes in our world that were instigated with the Pluto-Uranus square that happened around 2011. And so it's like, where are those changes? You know? Oh, it's so big that it's a completely other reality. And it's right there beyond the veil when you give yourself permission and you get squeezed tight enough. And you know you can't go back to 3D anymore. And you give yourself permission for your spiritual freedom, for your feeling better, you know? Like, these supernova souls you don't understand how much you've been squeezed into this lower reality, like what that's done to your psyche. And there's an elaborate, long-haul program to keep you there in this lower matrix prison. And that's fear programming around your power, and that your power isn't yours to access, your life force, your power, that's for the lower matrix energies to feed on, right? And so when we go to the threshold of taking back our power and our spiritual evolution, there's this thing like, oh no, that's not safe. Oh no, you don't have permission. You're just, you know, like whack-a-mole, knocking you back down into that 3D. So we dance there at the edge. That's a lot of the Saturn energy too, right? So this edge is time, it's karma, and it's authority contracts of where we said we couldn't handle our own spiritual power. But why would we have it? You know? And that's the whole deal. Like, you know, and then we got into the story in the Piscean age of like, we're here to heal and save and go down and, you know, be in the planetary grief and the lower vibrations and extract these souls out of it. And it's like, no, it's just about you giving yourself permission. And these higher frequency vibrations, this is probably part of the activation, they're stable. So that's what I was saying, is like, you don't understand how uncomfortable 3D is for you. And like, you go to the edge and then you keep getting knocked down. And it's kind of like your fear and your guilt for having access to higher vibrations, you know, all that stuff just knocks the karma, you know, responsibility, loyalty contracts, knocks you back down. But when you do break through and you really come into the flowering of your spiritual self, it's like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is who I am. It feels so much better. It's like you've been squished into a capsule and your spine is all like, you know, that Jack in the Box thing, you know? And it's like, oh, can you stand tall into this giant that you are? You know, awaken that giant within you, this higher dimensional self, and claim back your power from all of the lower dimensional energies that you gave it away to, you know? So, wow, it's so powerful and so intense. And then we've got Venus harmonizing this whole thing. Really, really sweet energies for this new moon and through the weekend. We've got Venus in trine to Jupiter and Mars square Jupiter. And it's that jimmying the lock energy. It's like some squares, some tension, and Mars retrograde saying, oh, we want to go to the new. And then Venus is like, it's cool. We can do this. We can, this can be harmonized, you know? And, like I was saying, I've been saying these Jupiter transits are just that crack in the code, the opportunity of the new. You know, everything else has been like old, garbage, trauma, stories, lies, you know, and programming and the lower matrix and just gloom and doom. When you're in gloom and doom and that hopeless energy, then you know you're in the lower matrix and you're outside of time. See, the trick to all of this astrology, or it seems like this kind of magic behind it all, is that, you know, when you're feeling bad about the world, you know, and this is really powerful thing that Supernova Soul's working through, because it's like you failed in your mission or whatever, but you didn't, because we're just getting started on this glorious experience of New Earth. But that, see, is that trap in time and the trap in karma. And so when you are in the past or the future, you know, like you're concerned about the next, you know, this is where we're trained to stay. All the media, all the distractions, all the stuff in our world is keeping us out of that glorious, continuous, timeless moment. And ironically, that's the only place we can actually access our life force. What Mars is trying to show us how to do. It's kind of like Mars has been it's our masculine, and it's about the warrior, you know, and the lower paradigm, and Mars, it's almost like the masculine got such a bad rap for being aggressive and violent, and then we just threw masculine out. You know, and then there's been all this focus in the spiritual world about the divine feminine and healing the feminine and all this. And it's like, yeah, but we got to have that warrior self back intact too, that spiritual warrior. And this Mars retrograde is like, you know, the moment you engage in that battle, you're feeding the lower energies, right? And so how do we fight without fighting? And we do that by claiming back our access to our life force. And it's so amazing. I mean, literally, this shift that I'm seeing people go through from like a little trickle of access to this energy, right? And then it just starts to pour into your life. This is creative energy. This is free energy. This is a feminine form of electricity that's available everywhere around us and in our own body. And yet, without that balance of our will force and our determination, our ability to stand up, this is what's missing in our world. That warrior, the spiritual warrior that says, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't right. We got to fight for what's right and good and true, but not fight because it pulls us into the old, right? And so that life force energy and accessing that back and taking it, stopping to feed, that's where we can only access that in the moment. And that's how we get over this hump, And it's just so powerful. So we've got the sun and the moon, of course, in this opposition with Mars square to these Pluto, to the Capricorn planets. And so that's about who are you? And maybe this is this Scorpio energy. Scorpio turned retrograde at 11 degrees. Really powerful because it heads back into Scorpio after it turns direct on November 11th, 11/11. So we got some crazy stuff going on because 11 is like a portal to a different reality. And so here we are. Libra New Moon 2020. Okay. Now, what's coming up, the energy that's coming up after this new moon is that Venus is coming into, it's in this beautiful trine with Jupiter, then it'll be moving into a trine with Pluto, a trine with Saturn, but in Virgo, it will be squaring up with the nodes of the moon. And so that is a powerful energy. And that it's interesting that like on the 21st of October is when that's exact, and it's at 21 degrees. And 2 and 1 together make 3 in numerology, which is a creation energy. It's taking 2 parts and making something more than the parts, a creation project. And it's like, okay, everything is saying it's time to birth that new world and allow ourselves to slip through the cracks and find each other on the other side of this glorious adventure of New Earth and moving into the Aquarian age. There's a lot of stories that have been kind of hidden from us throughout time, spiritual teachings that like thousands of years ago and throughout time of that talked about this time. And we need to seize that moment and let all of the traumas and everything that's happened to us and all the abuse and all that stuff be like, oh, that was getting me here to freedom, to my life force, to my ecstatic existence. And this is what I see. It's like people going back and forth between that, stuck in the past and future, worried about the world, feeling like they can't do anything. You've lost, there's hopeless, and that. And then just like this explosion of this life force energy and understanding that existence itself is ecstatic. These are these higher frequency vibrations that we need to grab a hold of, which are actually more true to who we are and our birthright, But there we are right at the edge of our finding that permission. And this is a big message around the supernova soul. These messages come through and that's like, what does that really mean? And we're starting to see this, that you're here to lead the way in spiritual ascension. And it's hard because you don't have the playbook. And yet you're a major player. And that's an interesting energy because we've got this Cardinal T-square with all of the major players. So part of this new moon is like, oh, are you on? Are you coming? Are you gonna be present with who you are as this advanced soul that has a very, very different future beyond what you can imagine, right around the corner? Or are you going to keep playing the old games? Like everybody around you wants to just, you can't just go feel good. The world's going to hell, And it's like, I'm going to heaven. I don't know. You guys can have that, I mean, there is this too, like we don't know exactly what's happening, but if souls are not ready to make this shift, they can keep going on that timeline. They can keep going and creating that techno control robot thing if they want to, right? It's like they can go have that. And that's not you, and it's not why you're here. And you have to just be concerned with that. And it's all going to work out. Nothing can stop this spiritual evolution, and it's happening. But right, we're at that point where it's about you giving yourself permission to be who you really are, even though you have no idea who this bigger self is, that giant that's awakening within you. It's like there's a part of you that's been in stasis, sleeping, this higher dimensional self. And it's the only thing that makes sense why you've had to go through what you've gone through. Why you said, I am not getting stuck in the earth trap. And so as that bigger self awakens, it's like that, that's where we find that permission to be in these harmonized higher frequencies. And but we have to understand that it's unknown territory, right? Like we're a key player in the plan, but we don't have the playbook. And we're supposed to come into this bigger spiritual self, but we didn't even know we had it, So it's really weird because if you're in the lower matrix time reality, it's really hard to see beyond the next few weeks and months. It's like, is life even going on? That's what they want you to think, that it's over. The world is over. And it's like, supernova soul, your world is finally arriving. And it's going to be so fun. I cannot wait to meet you in person and get together and celebrate what we're doing here together. So I hope you'll consider joining that new moon activation on the 16th. Or maybe I'll see you on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.